Hello out there in the community again. Greetings, it's Chris, it's the Mad Respect, and it's time for some library graphic novel reviews. Reviews of graphic novels. I think I got one novel in this month, and videos that I looked at in February, because they're all going back to the library today, so that I can share with you my next library graphic novel haul in my next video. So let's begin for the first time with a few February skip-ems. Alright. First library skip-em is Camilla, a film by Emily Harris. This is based on the vampire novel that predated Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the novel at least has a lot of lesbian undertones and stuff. And I'm not sure what kind of undertones this movie does have, because I started it 2 or 3 times and fell asleep every time. And usually when that happens, I don't finish a movie. So that will be a skip-em. Second skip-em probably has a little less to do with quality. It's Port of Earth by Zach Kaplan and Andrea Moody. I had all 3 volumes. And it says here, if True Detective, Season 1 naturally, and Men in Black could produce comic book offspring, it would be Port of Earth. That sounds like a glowing endorsement to me, but I made it through the entire first issue and about 5 pages into the second issue before I threw my hands up for the second time and said no moss. But I did make it through Undiscovered Country, which is even wordier than this. So I think I'm going to recheck these guys out in the future and give them another shot, because I'm sure I will enjoy it. It's just, for this month, it's a skip 'em based on time. And here we have the last one, Donna Tartt, The Secret History, a novel. This was on a 100 horror novels to read, best horror novels to read. And it says, the blurb for this is, it sucks you in and hooks you in from the very first page. Not for me. The first chapter and a half are about this guy trying to pick his college out, and it was just, I knew I wasn't going to make it through, but again, this might be one that I try to sit down and devote an entire month to read, or at least an entire week to get through that first slow part. But as of now, it's a skip 'em. Alright, let's get into the stuff that I did read in February. I'm starting with Still a Run, The Girl from the Other Side, Volume 9, story and art by Nagabi. This is on the top 50 horror graphic novels list from Paste Magazine. There was 3 or 4 mangas on that list, and I chose this one based on the subject matter, which is this little 7, 8, 9-year-old girl. Shiva lives out in the woods with these creatures called the Outsiders, with her teacher, who is one of the Outsiders who still dresses like a man and takes care of her out there in the forest, feeds her, etc. Keeps the other Outsiders away from her. And the main crux of this story is she's still human when she's living out in the woods with these Outsiders, which are basically, if you're touched by one of these and you're human, you then succumb and become one of these Outsiders. And at this point in the story, there's a castle called the Inside, which has a king and a vicar and an army, all that sort of thing. So the army came out and scared teacher away and stole Shiva and took her back to the Inside. And this is the second time they've taken her to the Inside. The first time they put her in an outer burrow, sort of, and everyone there started turning into Outsiders, so they let her escape into the outside again. But now the king thinks if they sacrifice her to God, because it's a very religious kingdom, if they sacrifice Shiva to God for her soul, that it will lift the curse of the Outsiders. But the vicar knows that the whole outsider thing is because there was a war between Mother Nature and God when everything was formating, and God won the war, but part of his penalty for winning is Mother Nature took the dark aspect of God that helped him win the war and cursed beings with it, and you call them the Outsiders. So the king changes his mind about sacrificing Shiva, but the vicar betrays him and wants to finish the ceremony. But fortunately, the king does survive his stab wound and confronts the vicar while his knight frees Shiva and sends her back to the forest where she goes to look for Teacher. And I won't spoil the ending, but they do reunite. And that's not a spoiler about the ending. You figure they do reunite, but that's not. But the spoiler involves that. Anyway, alright. Here we have Control, a film by Anton Corbijn. It's a biopic of Ian Curtis from Joy Division. And it's based on his wife's novel, Touching from a Distance. So it basically shows that he was a really tortured guy in this sense because he's tortured because he's cheating on his wife when he has a young child. But in reality, he was also tortured by the fact that he had seizures and fits the entire time of his career with Joy Division. And each one would take more and more out of him. And historically, what really happened is that he did end his life. But in this, they have it more in a dramatized fashion where he tells his wife off and says to come back in the morning, and then he does he commits suicide just like Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born with stringing his neck out. So I'm not sure if that's how he actually committed suicide, but I haven't looked it up. But according to this, he hung himself, yes. But the acting was really good. The sound of the voice compared to Joy Division was pretty close. It had its differences, but it wasn't so far off that it took me out of it. I would recommend it. It's not dull. And then what's definitely not dull is Unhinged with Russell Crowe. And this one is directed by Derek Brown. Hold on, let me see here. Derek Borte. I've never even heard of that guy. But this was the movie that was supposed to reopen theaters back in July, first part of July, before Tenet was supposed to save theaters. Neither of which happened here in Washington. No theaters have been open since March of last year. Well, further south of me, there have been theaters open, but I'm not leaving the house. But anyway, this one's a hoot. It's just a crazy guy. At the very start, you see him break down his wife's door, beat the crap out of her boyfriend, and then start to burn the house down. And that's like the first 2 minutes, and then it goes to this family with a mother who drives her son to school every day, and she's overslept, and she's having a bad day, and she gets fired by her, she's a massage therapist, I think, and a hairdresser, she's a hairdresser. And she gets fired by her client because driving her son to school is going to make her late for the hairdressing. And so on the way to school after being fired, she's upset about that, and another man won't move at a clearly green light, so she honks and honks and honks at him, and then finally drives around him and goes along her way. And then when they get to the next slow down in traffic, he pulls up right beside her and asks to roll down the window, and the kid's an idiot and rolls the window down, and all he asks for is a simple, she should have given him a courtesy tap instead of like laying on the horn, and if she'll just apologize, he'll go along on his way. But she says, no, I'm not going to apologize because you were sitting there at a green light being an idiot, and now you're confronting me and my son in the car, so I'm not going to apologize. And he's going to you're going to wish you did. And he spends the rest of the movie murdering her friends and family, and trying to get her and her son. So you have to decide whether the police will ever become competent or if she's going to step up and show the balls and stop this guy. But Russell Crowe is gleefully insane in this movie. I really, really enjoy it. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 10, Green Goblin Returns. This collects a couple issues and a special. It's all about Sin Eater coming to Ravencroft to purify Norman Osborn for his sins, and Spider-Man's going to make sure that doesn't happen. And what does happen is Norman takes the Green Goblin chemicals and puts on the costume and fights alongside Spider-Man to help stop the riot at Ravencroft, and then Sin Eater somehow possesses the Juggernaut, and they have to take him down. And they eventually figure out a way to take Senator down, but as soon as they do, Norman reverts to type and tries to murder Peter right on the spot, and then the League of Webs, or whatever, which is every other Spider-Man, comes in and gives him an assist at the end. And that's pretty much how it ended that I remember, but I think it had something about Kindred at the very end. Yeah, it says, oh, you might have been able to defeat Norman Osborn, but there's something worse waiting for you in the wings. And I guess the next volume reveals who Kindred is, who I already know who it is because I can't stay off the internet. Next up, here's some nice John Lees. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2, The New Strangeness. And it has a Rot in the Shell special, which is written by my man John Lees, with plot by Nick Pitara and art by Nick Pitara. And this is Michelangelo going down into the sewer because there's a missing person, and he follows a female cop down. And this is back when everyone didn't know about the turtles, I guess. So everyone hasn't seen a turtle, and this is the first time she's seen a turtle. And they're still kind of wary of humans, but they make this uneasy alliance to go down and find her brother. And they find this. They find out that all the, I guess, like insectile or wormy type life forms in the sewer have all formed a big conglomerate, or whatever you call it. They're all a hive mind, and they can become a big form and like turn into a big monster and beat you up. And then I think they've been eating some of the victims, and they've just been keeping some of them prisoner. And it's up to Michelangelo and this cop to take out this monster. And you feel for the monster, and you feel for Michelangelo, and you especially feel for the lady cop because her brother's dead. But it was a very interesting, effective turtle story to me, and one of the first I've ever read. But I mean, you can't fault John Lees. He's my favorite writer, so of course I was gonna like it. And next we have Blankets, a graphic novel by Craig Thompson. This is an autobiography of him just towards the end of high school. He goes on some sort of retreat, I think, and meets a girl. I don't think he meets her at school. Oh, he's at like a summer camp, and he's just kind of like a really introverted kid. But then he meets a girl at summer camp, and they fall in, early stage of puppy love, and they start to contact each other long distance by letter and phone. And then finally, over his spring break, he decides he wants to spend the entire spring break with her family. And his parents are like, as long as you keep your grades up and can still go to college, we'll let you do it. So he spends those 2 weeks with this girl where she gives him a blanket that she spent the entire time she's known him creating, and he loves it, And it finally turns out that they do consummate their first act of lovemaking together, and then split up again. He leaves with the blanket, and then things grow distant after that, after he returns home. And then he's having like mental problems at the same time too, so he decides for his sanity he's just gonna have to like not speak to her anymore because she's seeing other guys and he only loves her. So he burns everything that she's ever given him except the blanket, and then it goes to like the future when they're in their 30s, and he finds the blanket in his closet, and he remembers the good times again, and that's why he wrote this graphic novel about that time in his life. It was pretty good. Dead Eyes, Volume 1 by Jerry Dugan and John McCrae. This one's really good until you get to the last page, and it says to be, or next story. Where is it? It's 2021. This came out in, I don't know if this came out in late 2019 and most of it in 2020, but I don't remember any Dead Eyes last year solicitations or anything, and I'm back into buying comic books. But I really like the first story. It's kind of just like what if the Punisher was more like Robin Hood, and he punished criminals but also liked to rip them off for his own benefit or to help others out. And this is 20 years after he's retired, and right at the end of his career he murdered some guy for raping chicks, I guess. And he was a mafia scion, but he had ripped off the mafia. The scion had ripped off what do you call it when you're like the next in line? He's the next in line for the mafia. But he ripped off his own father, and they think it's Deadeye's because he's such a thief. Well, so it's 20 years later, and they keep saying on the news, he stole this money, he stole this money. And he's like, I never stole this money. But then his Deadeye's girlfriend has a seizure and is in the hospital, and they have like no insurance, so it's like $64,000 for a week to stay in this hospital, and they call them fucking Draculas. So he commits a few smaller jobs to pay for the hospital, and then he decides, well, since the mob comes after him, and he defeats their 3 henchmen easily, but he keeps one of them alive to ask, why do they think I stole $10 million? And he's like, it was because you killed his son and took the money. He's like, I killed his son, but I never took the money. So he finds out where the money is, and through another hilarious circumstances, he ends up with half the money because one of the bags breaks, and he, just to get out of the situation, he gives the other half to the people who he'd been fighting. And then at the end, he pays off all the hospital bills, goes home with his wife, and then he sees a picture of the guy he killed with the mafia don in the place where he was married, which was art gallery. And the big mystery at the art gallery is 3 paintings were stolen, so they keep the frames up in the event that they ever rediscover the paintings. And there's a $10 million reward on that too, so he's thinking, I'm gonna go screw with the mafia some more, get those paintings back, and then we'll be on Easy Street. But that's in the next volume, which, when's it coming out? I have no idea. And this one is Ultra 7 Days by the Luna Brothers. This one was recommended to me by Tricky Trapster on YouTube. The art was really good. The script is extremely, extremely wordy, and the overall subject matter is really not for me. It's kind of more like a bunch of chicks gabbing, and all their problems and etc. in life. I made it through the first 4 chapters fully, and then chapters 5 through 7 I kind of read, skimmed, and got the gist. And then at the end, I read the final issue, so I saw how it ended. But it was interesting. I'd recommend it to people who like soap operas and like Dawson's Creek, that sort of thing. But if you're just a guy who likes normal superhero comics, I don't think I would truly recommend this unless you're really into indie superhero comics. Then I could still recommend it. And next up is some Star Wars. We got Star Wars Bounty Hunters Volume 1, Star Wars Darth Vader Volume 1, and just the Star Wars title Volume 1. Darth Vader, it's a pretty cool story. It's about him finding one of Padme's handmaidens, and he wants to find out what happened at the end of Padme's life, because he suspects someone killed her, even though he doesn't realize it was his turn to Darth Vader that kills her, because the Emperor's been lying to him about that. So him and Padme go to find out more information about it, and when they get to where they're going, she's like, we know it's you who killed her this entire time, and we've just wanted to get you alone. And they try to take him out, and didn't work out that way. And when he gets back to the Emperor on the last page, he's like, the first part of becoming a Sith is the fear, and you've lost that fear, and I'm going to give it back to you. So that should be what the next arc is about, him taking Vader down a peg. I liked Bounty Hunters. It was about, I can't remember what this, another bounty hunter, new creation, and he goes on a heist with Bosk and Boba Fett and this king's son to do some kind of heist, but really the king's son just wanted to assassinate another line to the heir, and this guy's like, that's not what we were paid to do, what's up? And then Boba Fett tries to assassinate him and his other girlfriend, mentor type bounty hunter. And then 10 years pass, and his mentor comes back, so he's going to find her to get answers and or revenge. Boba Fett gets on the case to kill the girl, and then at the end they all meet up, and it all comes to a head. And then Star Wars, let me see, I gotta read the back, see if I can even remember what happened in this. Just a minute. Oh, this was about Lando when he first joined the Resistance after they left Cloud City, and no one still trusts him, but he's wanting to try and help find Han, but Chewie and Leia don't trust him, and then Luke gets a vision of his lightsaber in his hand still being in Cloud City from a mysterious cloaked figure, so he takes off on his own back to Cloud City, and then meets another Jedi-sensitive person. And that's about all that happened in here. I assume it continues into the next volume, but I like the Lando stuff in here, but not much else. It's probably my least favorite of the Star Wars series so far. And on the other end of that, we have Daredevil Volume 4, End of Hell. This is by Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Fornes, and Marco Cicchetto. Just another excellent volume in this run of Daredevil. The family that's been running Hell's Kitchen from the shadows and causing the police to hunt vigilantes and not really solve any other crime has finally gotten tired of Daredevil and the Kingpin not being under their thumb, so they send in a group of 4 supervillains. I think it's like the Rhino and Stiltman and a couple other guys, Bullseye, and sends them in to just raise Hell's Kitchen, because if they can't run it the way they want, they're just going to burn it to the ground. So Daredevil gets back into a form of his costume, I believe. Yeah, he's just wearing the mask, and you find out this nun he's been talking to the whole series is actually the good personality of Typhoid Mary, and he has to set her off to help try to stop the madness in Hell's Kitchen. At the end, Kingpin and him stand back to back, fighting off this threat to Hell's Kitchen, not because they're cool with each other, but because it's both their city, you know. And at the end, after they defeat the villains, Daredevil says, yeah, I did kill a man, and I want my day in court. So, and next, we have Oblivion Song, volumes 1 through 4, from Robert Kirkman. So, this is a series about a scientist who finds like an antimatter generator so you can visit other dimensions, but he sets it off incorrectly, and not only do you get to visit the other dimension while you're there, wherever you're at is in the other dimension, so it kind of flip-flops. So we have like 5 city blocks of this dimension in the middle of I think it's like Michigan or Minnesota, and those 5 or 6 city blocks that were on Earth are now in this other dimension, and he's really disturbed because his brother was one of the people who got lost in the other dimension on the other side, and he wants to go and find him the whole series, and his job is to go and do like one-man missions where he finds other humans that need to be sent back to Earth or saved from the dimension. Wonder Woman Dead Earth by Daniel Warren Johnson. This one's really cool. She wakes up in some life pod like 100 years in the future after the world's hit the apocalypse, and she has to go back and find out what happened. It's kind of like post-apocalyptic Dark Knight starring Wonder Woman, and it was really well drawn and good fight scenes, good backgrounds. I mean, Daniel Warren Johnson, he's really good. This is the first thing I've read by him, but I will be reading more. And now for my pick of the month. This is Devolution by Max Brooks, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. Max Brooks, author of World War Z. This is kind of in the same format. We have a bunch of interviews and interviews, but it's also the spine of the book is a journal by a woman who was trapped by this. They're in like this eco-friendly village where you're off the grid, but you're still on the grid. You have the cloud and you have high-speed internet. You can do all your work from out there in the woods, and so you can have the benefit of living out in the woods, but still be like you live in the city. You know, so that it's for people who are really rich, obviously, but and then Mount Rainier erupts and it cuts off all the technology from this place. So they're just a bunch of people trapped out in the woods. And then a couple of days later, the Sasquatches come sniffing around because they're hungry. Their natural feeding grounds have been cut off by the Rainier's eruption too. So they, one by one, start getting picked off by these Sasquatches. But there's this really hardcore Israeli woman who basically trains all of these soft, rich people in how to create weapons and how to create a perimeter. And they're going to try and fend off these Sasquatches. I would say this is better than World War Z as far as the oral history sort of thing, because it's not the oral history. There's just a lot of people I didn't care about in that, but most of the book is just one woman's diary, so you really get to invest in that character and her descriptions of everyone else living there, so you eventually invest in every character. So I really enjoyed this. I'd recommend it to anyone, and it is my pick of the month, and that's what I read in February. So I'll be back on the channel next time to show off my library graphic novel haul, and we'll see you then. So if you read any of this and you liked it, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm got a couple more subscribers, a few more subscribers, so I'm getting closer to 50, and then we'll be giving away Batman Last Night on Earth 1 second print and 2 and 3 first printings, along with another key book as my 50 subscriber giveaway. So make sure you put on notifications so you can see that video as I get closer to time. So other than that, everyone stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.